Hi guys, welcome back to the famous series. I do have a couple of quick disclaimers before I get into the video. Number one is that you just need to subscribe to me, please. I need to eventually be famous enough to hire an editor for this channel because doing it myself is not very fun at all. And number two is that I'm not sure whether to rank all the SCs together or to do them separately and just continue to go up in difficulty. I don't actually know what to do on that part, so let me know what you think should happen. And yeah, what do you guys think about that? Anyway, we gonna begin. Rank the Remorseless, The last non-SC difficulty, and the last difficulty where I'm probably qualified to rank. I know Intense might be that, but, Remorseless is... I've beaten a couple, about 3, on PC. So, yeah, just enjoy. Number 55 is Tower of Nonsensical Platforms, which is probably one of the worst towers in the game in my opinion. Although I know saying this might be a bit controversial because there's a small community of people that appear to like this for some reason. Let's be real, this is just garbage that relies on traps to create gameplay. You can tell this tower tried to be something that just wasn't really achievable back in January 2019, which significantly affected how the tower feels and plays as a whole. It all feels too annoying to me, and it's one of those towers you just can't really be asked to do, to be honest. It's just really bad. It's like... Tower of Fractured Obstacles is another tower that just needs to do one. Like, seriously, can you name me one person who actually genuinely enjoys this? This tower spams long jumps to the point where it's not really very funny anymore, and every jump, despite the lower density of traps, which is, that's alright, it seems like it was built purely to get someone to just crash out. And, which is fine for a JToH tower, but you gotta balance some good gameplay in there as well, so the experience is at least a bit enjoyable. But yeah, there's nothing really that noteworthy about it, to be honest. Nothing really to say, it's just a shitty tower. I mean, what more do you want? Tower of Glitching and Healing. Oh, this one might be another one that's kind of controversial, because there are some people that actually respect this tower. I mean, you either kind of love this one or you hate it, and to be fair, I honestly hate it. I mean, the glitches are the whole point of the tower. So, you can't really complain about that. But, when one of your key sources of gameplay is kill bricks, it's just, you're not going to be remembered very well by the majority of the community. The glitches are pretty finicky as well. Like, there's some that I just don't know how to do. And there are plenty of areas you can get soft locked, and you honestly sometimes need to rely on confidence and luck in occasional areas. I think Kato is why people don't go for gimmicky kick towers anymore, to be honest. I mean, this tower just kind of ruined the thought and the idea of actually having to perform glitches. It's a pretty bad one, to be honest, but then I do actually get people that think this is good, because, some people like the gimmick. It's not really for me. Yeah, really, it's a really bad tower. Well, I mean, Tower of Zest Plus, it's probably the most agonising experience out there that is non-SC. Unless, of course, you think of Citadel of Peril, but that's actually quite good. The JToH community of mid-2019 definitely could not be bothered to work out the puzzles of this tower, and in case you didn't know, this tower's name is actually Puzzles Jumbled Up. The JToH community of now also cannot be bothered with this tower. Everything is just so tedious and hard to figure out that you wonder why this mess even got into the game. It's peak Remorseless, and if you're going to be a peak Remorseless, you have to show at least something for it, because most people would rather be an SC at this point. Every puzzle feels like a chore, and if you're wanting some cool mind games, go and play Tower of Whisking It All or something, which, to be honest, that one's not great either. Number 51 is Tower of Extreme Dystopia. You're probably thinking, what are you on about? But then most people forgot this existed due to its more famous other Remorseless that lies in Zone 1. I grind out this tower a lot, a while ago. I used to grind this tower out a lot. I don't really do it that much anymore, but it was actually a fun experience, to be honest. Although I had to say, the gameplay was definitely on the trashy side. In fact, if you made this for anything past Zone 1's release, I doubt that it would actually qualify. The problem is with this tower, it's just really unpleasant. Like, the gradient's ugly as hell, the experience is clunky and very rage-inducing, and there are soft locks, which of course is everyone's favourite form of gameplay. You know, the tower's just really mid at best, and to be honest, I really wouldn't recommend anyone to play this, unless, of course, they're very experienced with classic towers, or they just want to torture themselves, because this one, yeah, it's not going to be a good time if you ever wanted to play it. Yeah, I know some of you might be disappointed this is so low, but don't pretend you're surprised, because I know while most people have nostalgia for this tower, you got to admit at the same time it's really not a great experience. The amount of thin studs is shocking, and the amount of times it relies on kill bricks and tight ropes to create punishing gameplay is quite ridiculous. I mean, yeah, the music is actually pretty goated, and this is probably most people's second Remorseless. Mine was Triple Jeopardy, but you know, this is most people's second Remorseless. There's not really that much effort here, is there? I mean, they didn't bother putting colour on the gradient. It's just, it literally goes from black to white, that's it. It's just a default. And hopping from extreme dystopia to this is like entering the mind of a brick wall. They both look the same. It's grey. It's boring. It's dull. There's not much going on with Tower of Eternal Suffering. It's just kind of mid, to be honest. And at number 49, we've got Tower of Great Displeasure. I mean, when it comes to Zone 2, I feel like for some people they either feel really nostalgic with it, or they just absolutely hate the quirky towers, or they just really like the quirky towers. Zone 2 is extremely subjective, but anyway, Tower of Great Displeasure, while actually pretty easy for a Remorseless, is an absolute chore. I mean, the gameplay, despite obviously putting in the effort, isn't very fun. It's a pain to play through. It's kind of hard to sight read without prior knowledge or having a guide up, and it's not a very enjoyable experience. However, I can back people that do like this. I mean, it's not abysmal, it's just kind of mid, again. I mean, it's just one that you can easily forget. It's not very fun, it kind of feels like a chore, it's just, yeah, it's not amazing. And we have Tower of Mean Tasks for number 48. It's just another really tedious experience, to be honest. I know some people actually really like this, but I just find it really tedious. I mean, much of the gameplay is pretty slow-paced and annoying. The issue many people have is that they just loot fail everything and feel the gameplay is SC, just because of everything being netted. Which, to be fair, I agree with that. I mean, a lot of this tower definitely does rely on the fact that it's got a safety net to pull the most obscene crap on you. And it is debatable whether a lot of the stuff is SC. There are plenty of points in this tower where floors take way too long and for no good reason. It just kind of drags on a bit, this tower, to be honest. And, you know, while I respect what it does try to do, it is a really tedious experience, and it's not one that I would recommend to anyone, to be fair. Number 47 is Tower of Corrupted Nightmares, and I actually think this is quite an overhated tower, to be fair. I mean, it's really not that bad. I mean, the gameplay is very old-fashioned, and there are plenty of unindicated traps and kill brick spam. But you could actually walk away from this tower with an alright experience if you really tried and you knew what you were doing. That said though, there are some irredeemable elements of this tower, such as the very frequent use of instas to create gameplay, again, and also, this tower does not go easy on you on the outside sections. If anything, they're way harder than what's inside. But then again, you know, that is just old JToH, but enjoyment on this tower is extremely subjective. You lot might be surprised why Beat Block Berserk is so low, but in all fairness, I just don't find it very enjoyable or entertaining for some reason. And it's not the beat block gameplay either, that's not really the problem, because there's other towers that execute this very well. But it's just how the tower executes this version of beat blocking, it's how this tower does it. I mean, literally everything is so punishing in this tower if you fall, and a lot of it's pretty unsight readable as well. The whole tower feels stressful, and there's just other towers that do this concept way better, like Climactic Beats and Rhythm Heaven. I do feel like Beat Block Berserk's concept though was very original at the time, and I do like what they were trying to do with it. It doesn't really slap very hard, if you know what I mean. Well, Citadel of contrasting regions. I guess Ring 4 and 5 just couldn't nail the whole Remorseless tower, could they? The Citadel is no exception to the rather mediocre set of towers we've seen in this era of the game. I mean, if I'm being honest, the raw gameplay is not too bad. I feel like the Citadel tried too hard just to be cool, and the regions thing is a good idea, and it does create some safety nets and some good gameplay at the same time, but they just didn't really do much to immerse you in the environment, really. I mean, it's all good, like, looking like it's snowy or desert, but you gotta have a bit of immersion to it, you know? Then again, I can respect this was quite early in the game. I know it didn't release at the same time as everything else in Ring 5, but, you know, it's still pretty early in the game, so you can't really diss this tower too hard. Well, Steeple of Towering Pillars. This one's just okay. I mean, I doubt many people actually remember this or even think of this steeple when they think of Forgotten Ridge. But the gameplay's alright. It's harder than the game says it is, though. A lot of jumps feel like a huge pain to get through, no pun intended, because of the other steeple in here. I just realised that, as I'm looking at the script. But yeah, that's not what I meant. Forgive me. But yeah, anyway, a lot of the jumps are just really weird and clunky. It is a 6th floor steeple, so it is to be expected that they're going to try and make it a bit harder. The gameplay's going to be just a tad harder than they said it was. But yeah, I feel a bit of resentment towards this steeple, but in reality it's kind of just a basic REM experience with nothing more to say, to be fair. Tower of Never-Ending Dizziness is not actually that bad, in my opinion. I know how annoying it can be. The idea of spinners being the main concept is a good one, but it does create some key problems. I mean, the first problem is that the gameplay does automatically become really annoying, and the second one is that a lot of jumps become difficult to time properly, and that obviously as a builder would mean you have to spend a lot more time coordinating where your jumps are, which can be a reason for some of the awkwardness in this tower. I mean, it's not bad at all, it could have done so much better at actually, you know, if it took the time to create some fun gameplay here, and it could have gone down much better in history, but it doesn't really. Well, Steeple of Midnight Acropolis. I do actually respect what this steeple was trying to achieve, but it comes across as quite annoying for me, if I'm being absolutely honest. The gameplay does utilise some very odd mechanics, and I don't really get what theme this steeple was trying to go for. That said, despite its hyper-modern gameplay style and questionable gameplay choices, I will agree that the sheer view of some of this tower's gameplay and just how nice it looks, you know, it looks amazing. You know, I really like just the key little details it adds to the environment in this tower, and they really went all out with the theme, even though I'm not sure what it's supposed to be, but they really did go all out with decoration here, so I want to give them a 10 star, 10 out of 10 for that. So yeah, well done, Steeple of Midnight Acropolis, you tried. Tower of Dance Destruction is one that a lot of people agree is pretty bad, but they just can't really bring themselves to hate it that much, which I can't blame them, to be fair. But, you know, I will agree that this tower's gameplay is pretty poor. A lot of the stuff is just really annoying to play through. And, yeah, the boss is broken. For some reason, it just doesn't give you any damage or deal you any damage. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but, yeah, it's ruins the tower experience, to be honest. You know, it could have felt much more immersive and a lot more of a better finale if the boss actually did what it was supposed to do, but, you know, the tower's gameplay has unique ideas, just doesn't really execute them very well, so, you know, it sort of becomes a C-tier tower at best. Yeah, pretty average, not much to say. Mid-tower, to be fair. Number 40, Citadel of True Exasperation. While it is debatable whether this is a Citadel, I will agree that that's probably not the point of why I'm ranking it today. The point is that the gameplay of the Citadel is pretty basic, and while it's not really got that much to it, some of the gameplay can be quite fun, and you know, it's generally alright. It's just quite forgettable, to be honest, and you just don't really hear much of the Citadel at all. It's just, you know, it's really forgettable. I don't know why. I just don't remember anything from this Citadel very much, to be fair. I don't really have that much bad to say about Tower of Brief Challenges. I mean, it's kind of like Tower of Questionable Trials, just, you know, the gameplay a little bit more annoying and a little bit more hard to deal with. But I actually do kind of respect this tower. I mean, it's just really forgettable though. I can't really think of a single thing this tower does that makes it really unique from another tower, but I will agree that it is pretty fun, and some of the stuff it does do can be quite creative. But I do like the style of gameplay as well. I mean, it's quite classic, and you know, it's easy to sight read. There's no issues with anything in this tower, and honestly, that's quite good for me at least. I don't know about anyone else, but that makes this tower a little bit more enjoyable for me. The reason it's so low though is purely because of just it's not memorable in the slightest. Like, that's probably the only reason, because otherwise this tower would probably be quite high on my list. Number 38, Citadel of Quadrilaterals. The tower with the funny name. Although, to be fair, in all honesty, the Citadel's kind of just meh. I mean, again, like Tower of Brief Challenges, it's not actually that bad, and again, the gameplays can be quite fun when it's trying. But I just feel like this is one that's a bit too rushed, to be honest. I mean, for a Citadel, I think they could have done more here, and you don't really get a full experience with this one, as you do with, let's say, you know, most other Citadels in the game. I just feel like this one was a bit rushed, you know, there's not too much difference between this and a normal tower. I just, you know, that being said, though, the Citadel really isn't that bad. It could do with some improvement in some areas, like, you know, it's honestly got the right ideas. Number 37, Tower of Tallying Every Mistake. I don't know why, but I always want to call this one Tower of Teaching Every Mechanic. It's probably because of the tutorial in JToH. But anyway, as for this tower, I've seen better, but I've also seen worse. I feel like this has some elements from Cohad, which actually really helps with the style of gameplay here, because it does feel like it is something that you might see in Cohad. So yeah, it does feel like it's honestly a breath of fresh air in some cases, because a lot of Lost River is just, you know, weird classic towers made in like 2020 that, you know, finally made it into the game because they've been on the whitelist for so long. This one's kind of different to that. However, one thing I will say is that this tower does kind of drag on a bit, and they could have done more to maintain its enjoyability and keep consistent with it for the whole tower. Although, one thing I am going to say right now is that this tower is just satisfying for some reason. I don't know why. Progressing through it just feels satisfying. I'm not really sure if it's the gradient or if it's just me, but yeah, this tower just has some kind of satisfaction to it when you eventually beat it. Tower of Ultraviolet. I actually recommend this to people who are just starting out with the Remorseless difficulty and want to go deeper into the difficulty. It's just got quite a few wraparounds in it that are actually, really, really good to boost your skill. It will definitely help you with wraparounds, and you're going to need that for when you eventually move into SC. But anyway, I will admit the tower is kind of forgettable, doesn't really do that much that's unique from any other tower, but it is still pretty good, and the gameplay's not that bad. I like how this tower's structured. It definitely does give off a weird vibe in some places, but it's not that bad. I would recommend this. Number 35, Tower of Tornado Vehemence. I don't know how the fuck you say that, but the tower's quite well loved by the community. Well, obviously, besides some of the client objects, they're a little bit weird to say the least. But the tower is actually quite good, and a lot of the community seems to enjoy this one. I don't know why I seem to think that people hated this. I mean, obviously there are some parts that are pretty bad, obviously. You should probably beat a few insanes before playing this. It might help your experience a lot. Because, obviously me coming in and filming this, I'd only beaten like 3 Remorselesses, and yeah, this was rough. And obviously I could not get past floor 1, but that's besides the point. From a good player's POV, this would probably be really fun. One thing I will say is that the tower can get, pretty annoying a lot of the time. A lot of things do feel a little bit pointless as well, but otherwise it's a pretty good time. Number 34, Tower of Chaotic Moments. Let's be real, I think the only reason that people actually remember this is because of the fact that it was put here to replace Tower of Oblivion, which obviously got moved to Ring 4. That being said, the tower is pretty creative, and some of the client objects are very interesting. It feels too advanced for Zone 2 sometimes. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here that you just wouldn't see any other tower in this zone actually being capable of doing. It can be kind of hard to sight read at times, though. Obviously, due to how dark this tower is, it can be hard to know where to go. But at the end of the day, it's never really that bad. Number 33, Tower of Uncontrollable Ire. This is now, unfortunately, Gamma's last contribution to the game. Although he could definitely have gone out on a better tower. This tower kind of spams client objects at you and feels a little bit too hyper-modern for Gamma's standards. Although it was cool how he was able to adapt to the times, obviously. That's actually pretty respectable, to be fair. But it's cool when you realise it was made by the same guy who made Tower of Getting kind of disappointed, That's more of what I recognise this tower for, to be fair. Although back to the tower, it's honestly not that bad and deserves more recognition. It's kind of fun for what it is. I mean, although some of the client objects are a little bit hard to sight read, it's all right. It's a very good tower. I wouldn't mind playing this, if I get better at Remorseless towers. So yeah, it's a good tower. It's all right. Citadel of Lethargy. It's kinda like Citadel of True Exasperation, where the gameplay's not actually too bad, it's just kinda forgettable. There's not too much of an actual theme going on here, but due to everything else in Ring 9, you can kind of respect the fact that this Citadel wants to keep it pretty classic. It's also a sequel to Citadel of Uneasiness, which might be a reason why the gameplay is so classic, and you can see the similarity between the two Citadels and the gameplay styles that they both use. It does get a bit repetitive towards the end of the Citadel, but, you know, it's not too bad. And on the whole, it is a pretty good Citadel, and it is quite a nice classic themed Citadel to play. I quite enjoy it. It's quite underrated. Tower of Bizarre and Brutal Torment. A lot of people do like to complain that the gameplay is pretty unplayable and quite painful to go through. And to an extent I agree with that. The tower is definitely a little bit of a struggle, but as for the theming and the creativity and the design of this tower, I think we can almost forgive how hard it is to go through. I mean, the effort's clearly there with the mechanics involved, and the execution just sometimes a little bit poor, but you know, we can, like I said, we can honestly forgive that because this tower's theming is very, very good. I do like how cool this tower can be at some points. You know, a lot of people don't give it credit for that, so you know, that's why I've come here to tell you that this tower's not as bad as you say it is. And although I do agree that the execution of the gameplay can be a little bit rubbish, but yeah, it's basically average. It all amounts to being average. Tower of Yearning Victory. This is the token high Remorseless of Ring 7. While yes, it has some difficulty spikes and can be very annoying and painful to go through, especially towards the end, I have to agree with people that love this tower. I mean, this one's honestly pretty cool at some points. I think the design's really good for something of its time, especially considering it's like, you know, early 2020, probably late 2019 when this was created. I also like the crowns at the bottom and the top. That's actually a really nice touch to it, especially because of the name, Yearning Victory, you know. It's a tower that you're going to have to really grind, though, if you want a chance of beating it, and it can get annoying if, you know, if you let it get annoying. If you've beaten a few FCs and you're going for this, it might actually be quite a fun experience. But yeah, you will have to grind this quite a lot to be able to do it. But yeah, decent tower. It's okay. Tower of Zany Architecture is a tower that is so simple, but it's also so fun at the same time. It is of course insanely hard to get through and a massive struggle for me of course, but I have some people that have beaten this, and I think the tower honestly looks very cool to me. However, the gameplay can struggle to flow a lot of the time, and it can get pretty janky, especially when it comes to the transitions between floors and stuff like that, but overall, it's a very good experience and a good skill boost if I'm being honest with you. I can't really find that much to complain about with this tower, so, you know, I think it's overall pretty solid experience. One that definitely fits Zone 5. Tower of Time and Space Manipulation. You know, when I ranked Tower of Swift and Precise Sections, or TOSAPs, in the last ranked video, obviously intense ranked, I did say that it looked cool, but it doesn't really excuse the fact that the gameplay is kinda weird, a little bit unsight readable at the same time. I think the same issue can be found in this tower, but it is far more immersive and fun than TOSAPs could ever be. This tower involves most mechanics in the game that you can think of and is honestly a pretty cool experience. I can say with confidence that this is a good upgrade from TOSAPs. It brings a lot more to the table. Each floor seems like its own unique experience, and I feel like that is something that TOSAPs wanted to do but kind of struggled with. This tower, yeah, this is a really cool tower. A very big step up. Definitely belongs in Zone 8. Citadel of a Cruel Tale. Still in the zones, we stumble upon Zone 7's Citadel. This one is actually a fun time, and I feel like it's definitely doing a good job at portraying its theme and maintaining some fun gameplay throughout. Of course, there are some parts that are a little bit difficult to sight read, but luckily the Citadel is fairly easy to learn when you get used to it, and the various themes are really cool, so to be honest, I'm pretty impressed with how the Citadel plays and how it does things. Obviously, I've never actually taken the time to do a full run of this, but I'm hoping to do that sometime in the future, because this one actually looks like it could be a really immersive and overall just genuinely enjoyable experience. Tower of Rhythm Heaven. This is what Tower of Beat Block Berserk definitely wanted to be, but just couldn't really achieve it. This tower is one of the most unique experiences in JToH. In a way, you don't really need much but pure precision and timing to be able to get through this one easily. That's what makes it remorseless, to be honest. Your own abilities sort of judge the difficulty. You can have a really good time at this, but then you can also really suffer. And that's one thing I like about it. It's honestly one of the coolest towers out there to use this kind of mechanic to its advantage, to be honest. And that said though, it can be difficult to know what to do at some points, and you probably should have practiced this at first just a little bit to actually know how to, you know, maneuver your way through this. But yeah, on the whole, great tower. Tower of Massive Overheating. I don't really know what this has to do with being cooked or anything hot for that matter, but I do know that I'll be cooked playing this tower. This is also one of the only towers where you can just walk into it from anywhere and start up the tower. Honestly, you can just walk into this tower. I don't know why that's a thing, but yeah, you can. And one of the key things that makes this tower fun is that it just feels really ominous. I don't know if it's just the gradient or the dark ambience of the tower or anything else, but the feel of this tower is definitely unique, and it is pretty cool. I do quite like this tower. I mean, a lot of people forget this one when it comes to Zone 6, but I actually remember this one quite vividly, to be fair. It's very good. I enjoy it. Tower of Pastal Pillars. It's got PP in its acronym. What a good one. What a good one. You can't even write this stuff, I swear. But anyway, as for the tower itself, I feel like it gets a little too much hate, to be honest. I actually really enjoy it for what it's worth. Despite having a few difficulty spikes and the main theme of the tower just being peak remorseless, where it's really hard, it actually has some pretty interesting ideas, and it creates a pretty, you know, interesting experience, and it's quite creative at some points, to be honest. I can't really think of anything that's too bad about this tower, besides the fact that obviously it can get really difficult, but that's kind of to be expected. It's a peak rem. Yeah, it's a pretty nice addition to Zone 9. I feel like Zone 9 wouldn't... Zone 9? What am I on about? Ring 9. I feel like Ring 9 wouldn't be very complete without this one. Tower of Funky Grooves. It's another Remorseless that I really do enjoy, and I recommend for someone who is kind of just starting out, getting into the difficulty, you know, beating some towers in it, just kind of getting used to Remorseless. I feel like the tower is really simple, yet it's so enjoyable at the same time. It takes a lot of really basic jumps and is able to turn them into some really cool mechanics. It's also really interesting because this tower's actually quite nice and appealing to look at to the eye. Well, for me, it really boosts your skill, especially with trust flicks, you know, and just nerve control as well. This tower's pretty nerve-wracking at most points, to be fair. And I believe that it's a generally solid tower. You should definitely try this one. The music also slaps as well. Tower of big, blocky, beefy buttons. It's a little hard to sight read, but I did really enjoy playing through this tower. I'm honestly quite surprised that the theme of button pressing hasn't really been explored as much until now. This is a really goofy and fun little tower to play through, and I respect how the gameplay is able to flow so well. This is honestly one of the more relaxing towers in Zone 9 for me. Well, At least, you know, to an extent, because it can get quite fast paced at the same time as, you know, obviously being relaxing. And I feel like it's a breath of fresh air in terms of, you know, creativity in Zone 9. I feel like it's something that's other towers can look up to in terms of, you know, having good and unique ideas, and I hope towers in the future can build upon, you know, this tower's concept. You know what? For what it's worth, I really love Tower of Nephilim. You know, this is a tower that has, you know, holds quite good memories for me. I used to grind this out a lot on mobile, and I will admit, it really does improve your trust clicking skills. The tower itself, while it's, you know, it's not the best in terms of creativity and obviously, you know, how things are done, because it is pretty old. But at the end of the day, it still holds up pretty well. It's a massive skill boost, obviously, like I said, and there's even some kind of theming with this tower. There's little castles built, you know, as some kind of safety nets during the tower, and I feel like the theme's almost sort of underwater fortress, and I feel like this is kind of inspires stuff like, you know, Wicked Fortress. I really enjoy this tower. It's very unique, and it is one of the most fun in Ring 6, definitely. Really good, like solid 9 out of 10 for me. A bit biased though, obviously. Oh, Citadel of Peril. While this is probably one of the most painful experiences of the game, I can't deny the fact that this is one of the redeeming qualities of Zone 1, in my opinion. The area itself is very mediocre, but I feel like this Citadel definitely almost makes up for this, alongside Tawny, of course. Of course, you're going to need a lot of practice before coming into this one, but it is so worth it when you eventually do achieve victory. There are so many different styles of gameplay that blend together really nicely to make this Citadel more enjoyable and more immersive, and I just feel like it is one of the best executed, you know, towers in the game, in terms of, obviously in terms of execution. It's not one of the best towers in the game, but yeah, the way it does stuff, the way it manages to create a sense of, you know, tension, it just does it really well, in my opinion. So yeah, very solid Citadel. Tower of Overbearing Vertigo. Oh, we are getting into the good shit now. This is one of the more fun towers in Zone 8, to be honest. There's nothing that's too difficult to sight read here, and I feel like the overall gameplay and experience of this tower is really fun and enjoyable as well. The difficulty remains consistent for most of the tower, and I feel like this is a nice, well, albeit slightly nerve-wracking, theme for a Remorseless tower. I do genuinely like this one. I feel like it does most things right. And while it's a little bit forgettable in terms of what's in Zone 8, I feel like you should definitely give this one a go if you're ever, you know, just in that area for something else. You should definitely give this one a go while you're there too. Okay, who doesn't like Tawny? This is a really fun tower that honestly is kind of a free rem if you're looking for one. I feel like the raw difficulty is definitely intense. There are so many mechanics in this tower that are so far ahead of its time, and I feel like anyone who had been playing mostly classic towers up until this point would be mind blown by how good this is. All the gameplay still holds up really well to this day, and is still quite impressive and creative to play through, just as much in 2024 as it was to play through in 2019, which was obviously 5 years ago. This tower's over 5 years old. There are people who are going to school that were not born when this tower was created. That is mind blowing, because this tower honestly feels like it could have been made now and still pass. Tower of True Skill. We finally made it to the big one. The one, the only, Tower of True Skill. There is definitely some nostalgia bias in this one, so let's all share a thought for our first rem. Because let's be honest, this is definitely your first rem unless you're a little bit strange.
Honestly, Tawny could be a good first rem, if I'm being honest though. Enough yet. This tower definitely has some really good purist gameplay, and implements some really fun mechanics, even for the year 2018. Also, let's not forget how well this tower manages to create so much tension on floor 9, despite obviously having no outsides on that floor. It is truly remarkable how this tower manages to do things. Honestly, I would give this one a 10 out of 10 if I wasn't so biased, or if I was so biased even, because obviously we all know this tower's not the best in the game, but let's be real, I just love this one, and most people also just love this one, so it's here, cry about it. Citadel of Sky Recognition, and this is one of the citadels that they're just so wacky you have to admire them. It can be so hard to see, but honestly I feel like the gameplay is really strong throughout the whole Citadel. It acts as a formidable... I cannot say that word. I don't know why I can't say that word. It's very weird. Formidable opponents before the SCs of the ring. And let's not forget the frame. Jeez. That thing could be used as a weapon in a murder scene. I don't know what it is about this Citadel, but it's just got a certain charm to it that no other Citadels in the Inferno really achieves that well. I feel like this one still holds up pretty good to this day. Ring 6 may not have done very well on most other things, but for its Remorseless, it definitely nailed it. Tower of Astral Fusion. Honestly, I feel like this tower is like high peak rem, but because of the safety nets and all that, it's obviously only like a bottom rem. That's not the point, obviously. I feel like this tower is a very appealing one to the eye and a very fun one to play through. It also will improve your skill significantly if you manage to somehow beat this. I don't know how you would. It contains basically all forms of gameplay that feel very well thought out and balanced throughout, and this tower maintains a good amount of consistency. It's pretty impressive, to be honest. I actually really enjoy this tower, although I'm not very good at it. There's definitely a lot to improve on for me, so I can't really say that much, but this tower's very fun for me. It's a very good skill boost. I often come to this one if I just want to practice like trust flicks or something. Very good. Hey, Tower of Triple Jeopardy. This is one of the 3 Remorseless towers that I've been able to beat on PC, the others being True Skill and Forever Sleeping Flower. And I'm glad to say that I've beaten this one because it will significantly enhance your skill, like a lot. It contains beat blocks and weird trust flicks and jumps that will make you apply your timing skills for sure. This is honestly one of the most fun towers to repeat in the game, and I do like the theme. It kind of feels like you're ascending a giant hotel that contains so many weird obby tricks and weird skills. Yeah, this one's very weird, but I do enjoy it. I like the weird trees as well. They kind of act like decoration. This one's a very goofy tower. I quite like it, to be honest. Cows. Like Cohad, this one took a long wait to get into the game, but obviously this wait was worth it. There are so many unique ideas being implemented into the Citadel that it feels unreal, and also the fact that they managed to make it still feel like a classic experience in the end is just amazing. Despite being a little more advanced than most of the structures that are located in Ring 2, it definitely feels like it still belongs in that area. I just can't think of anywhere else it would go. It fits with Ring 2's environment perfectly and feels like a great ending to everything you face in Ring 2. Yeah, and no wonder a lot of people struggle to beat this. I mean, it is very hard, but it is definitely worth it once you beat it. It is very cool. Steeple of Malignant Blight. While I've got no idea what that even means, I will agree on the fact that the steeple is pretty good. This is one of the best steeples out there, to be honest, and it really fits in with the whole vibe of Silent Abyss. The gameplay is unique, very creative, and is very entertaining to play through as well. There's a real sense of mystery with this steeple that makes it engaging and intriguing, and honestly I feel like that's one of the reasons that it's in Silent Abyss, because of, just how mysterious and strange it can get, because that is honestly one of the themes of Silent Abyss, to be fair. It's a very solid steeple, and I honestly would recommend this one to anyone who's in Silent Abyss. Even if their skill set is not Remorseless, they can probably still enjoy this one. It's very good. Tower of Climactic Beats. Another really solid tower that uses beat blocks as its main source of gameplay. This one really goes above and beyond the expectations that I had for it. It's not only really cool, but it also feels like a bit of a fever dream at some locations because of how many times it manages to make you feel truly immersed in its theme. It just misses out on the top 10, sadly, but I feel like most people are content with the fact that it's here. It still deserves a lot of recognition, much more than what it currently gets. I feel like a lot of people forget this one, but it actually deserves so much more than than the attention it currently gets. It's really good. Honestly, definitely check this one out if you're in Ashen Tower Works. Anyway, on to the top 10. Tower of Verdant Entropy. Despite this tower taking inspiration from mostly purist themes, it still somehow manages to be an amazing and enjoyable experience. I do like the whole idea of climbing up some giant plant. It's a very beautiful idea and a very nice concept to go along with, especially when making a tower that's going to have such an important role in the ring. For a tower so simple, it really manages to get you to think and enjoy yourself while you're playing. And I'm glad this sort of redeems Ring 8 for me because, a lot of the other stuff in this ring is either really underwhelming or really annoying to play through. So yeah, I'm glad this tower exists to sort of attempt to redeem that. Tower of Mechanical Disarray. I really enjoy this one. It has a sort of industrial theme to it. It's actually pretty easy to sight read as well, and it's enjoyable at the same time. I feel like this tower just does everything right, and it's very unique. It feels like a much better spin on the industrial theme, which is honestly very fitting for its area. I'm surprised that a lot of other towers didn't try to do that, considering it kind of works with the whole idea of Ring 6 and Ashen Tower Works, so I'm glad this tower actually managed to, enhance and build upon that theme. But yeah, it's a very fun and creative tower, which I enjoy a lot, and I feel like a lot of people should try. It's very good. Citadel of Increasing Claustrophobia. This is basically Tower of Thinning Layers if it was made in 2024, was slightly easier, and was a Citadel. The Citadel really builds upon the theme of Thinning Layers because it turns it into something much more significant, and it enhances the experience of the tower a lot, more than just the theme of Thinning Layers, obviously. I really feel like the Citadel also involves so many classic themes that feel like a breath of fresh air from the cluster of creative chaos that just absorbs Zone 9 so much. It honestly feels like something that's a lot more easier, a lot to sight read at least, obviously, and just a lot more fun in general, because you're not having to look up a guide or something. Obviously, not saying that the other towers in Zone 9 aren't fun. They really are. But this one just sort of feels like a bit more of a chill experience, despite being a Remorseless Citadel. Tower of Minus Facility. Yeah, we're staying in Zone 9 with this one. Anyway, this tower is another one with a great theme that is executed really well, and I feel really does its whole theme a lot of justice here. The gameplay is really solid, and it's actually pretty cool as well, if I'm being honest with you. There's a lot of unique ideas used here that you just don't really find anywhere else in JToH. It is truly a phenomenal experience, and of course, it definitely belongs in one of the most hyped areas in the game. Of course, Zone 9's incredibly hyped, obviously, and this tower
and this tower only adds to that hype. It's a very good tower, very solid. I enjoy it, it's good. Of Pyramid Escapades. Honestly, I love that they have an entire backstory for the Citadel. That's just so goofy, and honestly, it's a pretty JToH thing to do, to be honest. I really love the whole theme of going through a pyramid. There's a lot of ancient Egypt themes that really add to the environment and atmosphere of this tower, and I really enjoy how immersive it is and how vibrant the whole Citadel can be. It's honestly the best Rem Citadel out there. I can't think of a Citadel that could possibly be better than this. Obviously, you guys might think there's a better Rem Citadel, but this, for me, is the best one out there. Hands down, definitely. Tower of Questionable Trials. This might be personal bias, but I really love this tower. I don't know why, I just feel like it does everything perfectly. It has perfect gameplay, it creates a lot of tension, especially with the final outside. That one causes chaos to a lot of people's runs, and I have had personal experience with this. I've also beaten it on mobile, so I am more than qualified to talk about this tower. And it also has an epic soundtrack. The gradient's also pretty nice. It's just a really solid experience. I just can't really think of anything bad about this tower, besides, obviously, if you fail it, but you're gonna fail every tower, so yeah, it's just, I can't really think of anything wrong with this tower, if I'm being truly honest with you. Tower of No Return. This is perhaps one of the best penultimate challenges I've ever seen even performed in JToH. The whole idea of climbing some treacherous mountain feels like a surreal yet amazing way to end Zone 8's non-SCs. The gameplay is also nerve-wracking yet incredibly fun as you manage to progress through it. You really feel like you've achieved something incredible at the end of this tower, and any tower that is able to do that to you must be a significant experience. Come on. This is definitely one of the best towers in the game, and also one of the best towers when it comes to creating tension as well. You wouldn't think it at first, but it definitely does. So just look at it. If you take the time to look around, yeah, it is tense. Tower of Forever Sleeping Flower is one of the best and most aesthetically pleasing towers in the entire game. It has an amazing story to it and a great final stretch, and I feel like it does everything it can right. The themes it has are really unique and feel really creative to me, and also contain a lot of different gameplay aspects that really make this vibrant show, come together perfectly. I really love this tower for what it is, which is why it's gonna, of course, take bronze today. It's just so vibrant. I really love everything this tower does, to be honest. It's just, at risk of repeating myself here, it's phenomenal. Tower of Voyaging into the Earth. Oh, this is another really creative concept, but this is executed brilliantly. The whole idea of this tower is amazing, and the way it looks and works is honestly one of the most charming things ever. It really deserved to get into Zone 9, and I'm very happy it did. And of course, let's not forget that starting rap that the tower even jokingly says, "Ruins a tower rush," which it does. The tower doesn't take that as seriously as it should, though. But the gameplay definitely makes up for all of that. Like, this is one of the most amazingly themed towers in the entire game, and honestly, I'm so glad it got into Zone 9. I was rooting for this one. This is one of the only ones that I actually took the time to play before the 9th zone came out, and yeah, this honestly, I'm so glad it got in. Tower of Eye Candy. Honestly, who didn't expect a Zone 9 to be right here at the top of the list?
Tower of Eye Candy is one of the greatest towers of all time. The gameplay is phenomenal and engaging throughout the whole thing, and this tower is, of course, very nicely designed, of course. To be fair, the whole tower is just impressive. I don't know how they managed to do it. It's really vibrant and bright, and it's just really cool. It really deserves number 1 on this list. I could not think of a better Remorseless tower that is out there. I just absolutely loved this one. And now, finally, my rankings can rest again, because next time I'll be visiting the SCs. So, that's another difficulty down then. I did initially think this was going to take way longer, but I actually got it all done. Seriously, the top 40 towers of this video were all done within like 5 hours. I honestly need to watch this whole series after I finish it, because it would be nice to see how far I've come, and you know, just you know, the difference between my ranking in quality back in like 2022 and how it is now. But yeah, it should be fun to watch that. I will have to do that at some point. And yeah, stay tuned. SC is next, where I'll just be trying to rank the towers as best as I can. I'm glad it's not going to be nearly as long as Challenging, Intense, and Remorseless have been, because, you know, these have been really difficult to make. These have been like my milestones in my video making. But yeah, it's only going to get easier from here on out to rank these, and I hopefully will spend more time working on actually the script of ranking the towers, because, you know, I'll have more time on my hands to do that. But yeah, please subscribe, it would make me very happy. And yeah, peace out, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. It was honestly kind of fun making this one, to be honest. Way more fun than it was making Intense. Yeah, goodbye.